Welcome to today's documentary. Get ready to lose yourself in a tale that is part thrilling and part cautionary, a story that will make you rethink what it means to get rich. We are diving into a world of fortunes won and lost, where dreams collide with reality in ways you wouldn't expect. Want to share your thoughts? Leave a comment below. Tell us where you're watching from or what you hope to take away from this journey. We read each one of them and we can't wait to hear from you. So sit back, let the world fade away, and let's dive into the story. Story 1. The scam of the fake millionaires. You could be the next target. It started with a single Instagram post, a man in a tailored suit, leaning against a gleaming red Lamborghini, the ocean sparkling in the background. The caption read, "Millionaires mentor millionaires. Join my exclusive mastermind to unlock your financial freedom." Emily, a 29-year-old single mum from Ohio, scrolled past it late one night, her thumb pausing as she stared at the image. She'd been struggling to pay rent, juggling 2 jobs, and dreaming of a better life for her daughter. The man in the photo, Marcus King, seemed to have it all. Private jets, luxury watches, a penthouse overlooking Miami. His posts were a daily parade of wealth, confidence, and success. When he messaged her directly, offering a once-in-a-lifetime investment opportunity, Emily felt a flicker of hope. She wired $5,000, her entire savings, to his private trading fund. 3 months later, Marcus vanished, along with her money. Emily wasn't alone. Thousands of Americans have fallen for the scam of fake millionaires, predators who weaponize the allure of wealth to prey on dreams. You could be their next target. The human brain is wired to chase shiny things. In a world obsessed with wealth, status, and success, the promise of riches is a siren call. Social media amplifies this, bombarding us with images of opulence, yachts, designer clothes, exotic vacations. These platforms have become the perfect stage for fake millionaires, con artists who craft meticulous facades of wealth to lure victims into scams. They don't just sell lies, they sell a lifestyle, a dream so vivid it blinds us to red flags. This is the story of how they operate, why they succeed, and how you can protect yourself from becoming their next victim. Humans are drawn to wealth like moths to a flame. Psychologists call it the halo effect. We assume people who look successful are trustworthy, competent, and worth emulating. A 2023 study from the University of Chicago found that displays of affluence, whether real or staged, trigger dopamine responses in the brain, making us more likely to trust and follow those who appear rich. Social media exploits this instinct relentlessly. A well-curated Instagram feed filled with private jets and 5-star resorts creates an illusion of authority that's hard to resist. For many, especially those struggling financially, these images aren't just aspirational, they're a roadmap to a better life. The fake millionaire knows this and uses it to their advantage, crafting a persona that screams, "I'm living your dream, and I can show you how to get here." So who are these imposters? They're not the cartoonish villains of old-school cons. Today's fake millionaires are polished, charismatic, and tech-savvy. They're often in their 20s or 30s with a knack for storytelling and a wardrobe of rented designer clothes. They speak the language of hustle culture, grind now, shine later, and pepper their posts with buzzwords like passive income and financial freedom. Their profiles are a gallery of staged opulence, a Rolex glinting on their wrist, a rented mansion serving as a backdrop for business meetings, a chartered jet for a quick work trip to Dubai. They're meticulous about their image, often hiring photographers to capture their lifestyle or using Photoshop to place themselves in luxurious settings. Some even buy followers to boost their credibility, creating the illusion of a massive, adoring audience. The tactics they use to fake wealth are shockingly simple, yet devastatingly effective. Luxury cars, a staple of their aesthetic, are often rented for a day or borrowed from a friend for a quick photo shoot. A 2024 exposé by Forbes revealed that some scammers use car-sharing apps like Turo to rent Lamborghinis or Ferraris for as little as $500 a day, snapping photos that fuel months of content. Hotels and resorts are another favorite prop. Many fake millionaires book a single night in a penthouse suite, stage a week's worth of photos, then check out. Others rely on credit card fraud or partnerships with shady businesses to fund lavish dinners and trips, posting the evidence to dazzle their followers. Even their homes are often a lie, with some using Airbnb rentals or staged sets to mimic a millionaire's mansion. Photo manipulation is rampant too. Stock images of private jets or tropical beaches are edited to include the scammer, creating a seamless illusion of wealth. Why do these scams work so well? It's not just about the glitz, it's about psychology. Humans are wired to trust those who project success. The fake millionaire exploits this by embodying authority and confidence, traits we associate with wealth. They tap into our desire for status, promising a shortcut to the life we crave. According to Dr. Sarah Klein, a behavioral psychologist at Stanford, when we see someone who appears to have made it, our brain bypasses critical thinking. We want to believe they hold the key to our own success. This blinds us to warning signs like vague business plans or overly polished personas. The scammer's confidence is contagious, making us ignore the gut feeling that something's off. Social media is their playground. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are tailor-made for deception, allowing scammers to reach millions with a single post. They use carefully crafted content to build trust, motivational quotes, behind-the-scenes glimpses of their work, and testimonials from students, who are often paid actors or fake accounts. Algorithms amplify their reach, prioritizing flashy, engaging content that keeps viewers hooked. A 2024 report from the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, noted that 68% of social media scams originate from Instagram, where visual appeal trumps substance. The algorithm doesn't care if the wealth is real. It rewards engagement, making it a silent accomplice in the scam. The scams themselves are as varied as they are insidious. Some fake millionaires push investment opportunities with promises of astronomical returns. Think 20% monthly gains in a secret trading system. Others peddle fake cryptocurrencies, complete with glossy white papers and doctored charts. Courses on how to get rich quick are a favorite, often sold for thousands of dollars with nothing but recycled motivational platitudes. Then there are the pyramid schemes disguised as mentorship programs or exclusive network, where victims are roped into recruiting others to recoup their losses. The FTC reported that Americans lost $3.7 billion to such scams in 2024 alone, with fake millionaires playing a starring role. Language is their weapon of choice. Fake millionaires are masters of persuasion, using psychological triggers to reel in victims. They lean on scarcity, only 5 spots left in my mastermind, authority, I've mentored billionaires, and social proof, look at my 10,000 happy students. They're also adept at exploiting emotional vulnerabilities, targeting people who feel stuck, insecure, or desperate for change. Their DMs are personal, almost intimate. I see something special in you, they might write, making the victim feel chosen. This manipulation is deliberate, designed to lower defenses and build trust. As marketing expert Jason Patel explains, they're not selling a product, they're selling a version of you that's richer, happier, and more powerful. Choosing victims is an art form for these scammers. They trawl social media for signs of vulnerability, posts about financial struggles, comments dreaming of a better life, or profiles filled with aspirational hashtags like Ishi Millionaire Mindset. They target the hopeful, people like Emily, who are stretched thin and yearning for a break. Using bots and analytics, they identify potential marks, then slide into their DMs with tailored messages. A 2023 study by the Better Business Bureau found that 72% of scam victims were contacted directly by the perpetrator, often after engaging with their content. The scammer builds rapport, liking posts or leaving comments like, "You're destined for greatness," before pitching their scheme. Real-world cases expose the devastation these scams cause. In 2022, Anna Delvey, real name Anna Sorokin, made headlines for posing as a German heiress, swindling New York's elite out of $250,000 by flaunting a fake fortune. Her story, dramatized in Netflix's Inventing Anna, showed how far a fabricated persona can go. Another case involved crypto king Jordan Blake, who defrauded investors of $12 million by promising a revolutionary blockchain platform. His Instagram was a shrine to excess, private jets, gold-plated sneakers, until the FBI arrested him in 2023. Victims of these scams often lose more than money. Emily, for instance, spiraled into depression, racked with shame for trusting Marcus. Many victims report feeling betrayed not just by the scammer, but by their own judgment. Spotting a fake millionaire requires a sharp eye. Red flags include promises of quick riches, millionaires mentor millionaires, vague or secretive business models, and pressure to act fast. This deal closes tonight. Legitimate entrepreneurs are transparent about their finances and don't rely on flash to prove their worth. If someone's wealth seems too perfect, every photo staged, every post dripping with luxury, dig deeper. Check their credentials, ask for references, and search for their name alongside scam or fraud. A lack of verifiable history is a dead giveaway. The psychological toll on victims is brutal. Beyond the financial loss, there's a deep sense of humiliation. Victims like Emily often blame themselves, questioning how they could have been so gullible. This self-doubt can lead to anxiety, depression, and a shattered sense of trust. A 2024 study by the American Psychological Association found that 63% of scam victims reported long-term mental health issues, with many avoiding future opportunities out of fear. The stigma of being scammed keeps many silent, amplifying their isolation. Protecting yourself starts with skepticism. Investigate anyone claiming to offer wealth-building opportunities. Google their name, check their business on the Better Business Bureau, and look for independent reviews. Desks of promises of rapid returns. Legitimate investments take time. Never send money without verified contracts or proof of legitimacy, and consult a financial advisor before making big decisions. A practical checklist. Cross-check their claims, demand transparency, and trust your instincts. If it feels too good to be true, it probably is. Social media platforms bear some responsibility. While Instagram and TikTok have cracked down on blatant scams, their algorithms still amplify deceptive content. In 2024, Meta removed 1.2 million fraudulent accounts, but scammers adapt quickly, using private groups and encrypted apps to evade detection. The future of these scams is evolving. AI-generated deepfakes and virtual reality mentorships are already emerging. Platforms must invest in better detection tools, but users must stay vigilant too. The scam of fake millionaires thrives on our dreams and insecurities. They sell a fantasy, but the cost is real. Savings drained, trust shattered, lives upended. Emily's story isn't unique, but it's a warning. The next time you see a gleaming lifestyle on your feed, pause, ask questions, dig deeper. Your future self will thank you. Story 2, 7 Secrets about money only millionaires know. In a modest neighborhood on the edge of Charlotte, North Carolina, where the hum of lawnmowers and the chatter of working-class families filled the air, a boy named Ethan grew up watching the world with curious eyes. His street was loud with dreams, Neighbors swapping stories of lottery wins they'd never had, boasting about raises that barely covered rent, or arguing over bills in the sticky summer heat. But across town, in the gated enclaves of the wealthy, Ethan noticed something different: silence. The rich didn't talk about money, they didn't flaunt it, didn't curse it, didn't chase it in public. Their quiet confidence fascinated him, like a code he was determined to crack. By the time he was a teenager, Ethan had stumbled into a world of secrets, truths about wealth that the rich guarded not with words, but with actions. These were the lessons that shaped him, lessons so subtle they could slip past you if you weren't paying attention. This is the story of how Ethan, a kid from nowhere special, uncovered the 7 secrets about money that only millionaires seem to know. At 17, Ethan landed a summer job as a delivery boy for a high-end grocery service, ferrying organic produce and artisanal cheeses to the sprawling mansions of Myers Park. The job was grueling: long hours, heavy bags, and the occasional condescending tip, but it brought him face to face with the elite. One humid afternoon, as he rode the elevator in a sleek condo tower, he overheard 2 men in tailored suits talking in hushed tones. "Money hides, it doesn't show off," one said, his voice low but firm. "The moment you flash it, you're a target." Ethan's ears perked up. He'd grown up around people who bragged about every dollar they earned, yet here were men who treated wealth like a closely guarded secret. That moment planted a seed. There was a way to think about money that he'd never been taught, a way that separated the truly rich from everyone else. One of Ethan's regular delivery stops was a man named Henry Caldwell, a multimillionaire who owned a string of manufacturing companies across the Carolinas. Henry didn't look the part. He wore faded t-shirts and drove a 10-year-old Toyota Camry, the kind of car Ethan's neighbors would have mocked. But Henry's unassuming presence was a disguise. Ethan once saw him sign a contract worth millions in the same breath he used to thank him for delivering his groceries. Over time, Ethan pieced it together. Henry's wealth wasn't in his clothes or his car. It was in his control. He owned businesses, properties, and investments that worked for him, while he lived a life so ordinary it was almost invisible. Ostentation, Ethan realized, was a distraction. Real wealth didn't need to shout, it whispered. Henry became Ethan's unlikely mentor, sharing the first true secret of the rich: money must multiply. "Never let your money sit still," Henry told him one day, tossing him a bottle of water as they stood in his modest kitchen. "Cash in a bank account is lazy. It's not working." Henry explained how millionaires treat money like a tool, not a trophy. They invest in businesses, real estate, or stocks, assets that generate more money over time. He showed Ethan a spreadsheet tracking his rental properties, each one spitting out monthly cash flow like a well-oiled machine. "The goal isn't to have money," Henry said, "it's to have money that makes more money." For a kid who'd grown up thinking wealth meant a fat savings account, this was a revelation. The rich weren't hoarding cash, they were building systems that created it. Another resident of the condo tower, a woman named Claire Montgomery, taught Ethan the second secret: debt isn't always the enemy. Claire was a real estate mogul who owned half a dozen commercial buildings downtown. One evening, as Ethan dropped off her order, she was on the phone negotiating a loan. After hanging up, she noticed his curious stare and grinned. "You think debt's bad, don't you?" she asked. Ethan nodded, thinking of his mum's credit card bills. Claire explained that there were 2 kinds of debt: the kind that traps you, like car loans or designer clothes, and the kind that builds wealth. She used bank loans to buy properties that tenants paid off, turning the bank's money into her profit. "Debt is a tool," she said. "Use it to buy things that make you money, not things that make you look rich." Ethan began to see debt not as a burden, but as a lever. one the rich used to lift themselves higher. As Ethan spent more time among the wealthy, he noticed their relationship with time was different. They played a long game, making decisions that wouldn't pay off for years, sometimes decades. One of Henry's friends, a tech entrepreneur named Raj, once showed Ethan a business plan for a startup that wouldn't turn a profit for 5 years. "Why wait so long?" Ethan asked. Raj laughed. "Because the world moves fast, but wealth moves slow. Plant seeds today, harvest forests tomorrow." This was the third secret. Millionaires prioritize the future over instant gratification. While Ethan's friends chased quick cash from side hustles, the rich were building empires with patience, trusting that time would amplify their efforts. In the underground parking garage of the condo tower, Ethan stumbled onto the fourth secret, the power of connections. Between deliveries, he'd linger over coffee with the building staff, eavesdropping on the residents' conversations. The wealthy didn't just know people, they knew the right people. Henry, Claire and Raj often met for quiet dinners or golf outings, not to brag, but to share ideas, deals and opportunities. Their network was a hidden asset, more valuable than any stock portfolio. Once, Ethan overheard Henry refer a friend to a private equity deal that later made headlines for its massive returns. "Your network is your net worth," Henry told him later. "Surround yourself with people who think bigger than you do." The rich grew together, their wealth intertwined like roots beneath the surface. Ethan's education wasn't without temptation. At 19, he was approached by a flashy entrepreneur named Derek, who promised 6 figures in 6 months through a cryptocurrency trading scheme. Derek's Instagram was a shrine to wealth: gold chains, private jets, stacks of cash. Ethan, eager to apply what he'd learned, was tempted. He mentioned it to Henry, who shook his head. "If it's quick, it's a trap," he said. "Real wealth takes time, not shortcuts." Derek's scheme collapsed months later, leaving investors broke. Ethan dodged a bullet, learning the fifth secret. Millionaires avoid get-rich-quick schemes. They build wealth through discipline, not desperation, choosing slow, steady gains over flashy promises. The more Ethan observed, the more he noticed the rich hid their income sources. Claire once let slip that her real estate was only part of her portfolio. She also owned stakes in a tech startup, a vineyard in California, and a logistics company. When Ethan asked how she managed it all, she smiled. "Never put all your eggs in one basket, and don't tell everyone where your baskets are." This was the sixth secret: diversification and discretion. Millionaires spread their wealth across multiple streams, businesses, investments, royalties, while keeping the details private. Their money worked in the shadows, growing quietly, while the world saw only their modest exteriors. Fear was another surprise. Ethan assumed the rich were fearless, but they weren't. Raj once confided that he'd lost sleep before launching his startup, terrified it would fail. Yet he didn't let fear stop him. He studied it, planned for it, and moved forward. "Fear keeps you sharp," Raj said. "It's fuel, not a brake." This was the seventh secret. Millionaires embraced fear as a signal to prepare, not retreat. They analyzed risks, stress-tested their decisions, and acted anyway. Ethan began to see fear not as a barrier, but as a guide, pushing him to think harder and plan better. The rich were also obsessed with information. Henry's study was lined with books, economics, history, biographies of industrialists. Claire read market reports like novels. Raj subscribed to obscure financial newsletters. They didn't just consume self-help platitudes, they dug into data, trends, and ideas. "Knowledge is the soil where money grows," Henry told Ethan. This hunger for information was another secret, one that explained their edge. They didn't guess. They studied. Ethan started reading too, borrowing books from the library on investing and business, slowly building his own mental library of wealth. Then there was their demeanor. The rich never seemed desperate. Claire once turned down a lucrative deal because it didn't align with her goals. Henry declined partnerships that didn't feel right. Their confidence, rooted in discipline, not arrogance, attracted opportunities like a magnet. "Money flows to those who don't chase it," Claire said one day, watching Ethan unload her groceries. It was a paradox. By acting like they didn't need money, the rich drew it to them. This subtle power, this ability to seem self-sufficient, was a secret Ethan tucked away, practicing it in his own small ways. Disaster struck when Ethan was 22. He'd saved enough to invest in a small real estate deal, a duplex he planned to rent out. But he miscalculated the repairs, underestimated the market, and lost everything. $30,000, years of savings. Devastated, he turned to Henry, expecting pity. Instead, Henry shrugged. "Failure's part of the deal. Learn from it, then try again." Ethan realized the rich didn't fear failure. They expected it. They saw losses as tuition, not defeat. This resilience became another secret, one that carried him through the pain of starting over. Years later, Ethan's persistence paid off. At 28, he was invited to a dinner at Henry's home, not as a delivery boy, but as a guest. He'd built a small portfolio of rental properties, a side business, and a network of mentors who saw his potential. Sitting at the table, surrounded by the quiet confidence of millionaires, Ethan realized he'd earned his place not through luck, but through discipline, patience, and strategy. He wasn't rich yet, but he was on the path, guided by the secrets he'd uncovered. The final secret came into focus that night. Henry, Claire, and Raj, despite their wealth, were still learning. They debated market trends, swapped book recommendations, and questioned their own strategies. Their success wasn't a destination, it was a process. "The moment you stop growing, you start shrinking," Henry said, raising a glass. Ethan understood. True wealth wasn't about money alone. It was about becoming someone who never stopped evolving, who turned every lesson, every failure, every connection into a step towards something greater. The rich weren't just rich, they were relentless. Story 3, Rich versus Poor. What really changes? In a dusty corner of Raleigh, North Carolina, two boys grew up sharing the same cracked sidewalk, the same pickup soccer games, the same underfunded public school with flickering fluorescent lights. Lucas and Andre were inseparable, their laughter echoing through the humid summers of the early 2000s. They dreamed of big things, fame, cars, freedom, but their paths diverged as sharply as a fork in a river. 20 years later, Lucas sat in a quiet office, his wealth growing silently through investments, while Andre hunched over a kitchen table cluttered with overdue bills, trapped in a cycle of debt. The difference wasn't luck, nor was it talent or opportunity. It was a series of choices, habits, and mindsets that carved their fates, revealing the subtle but seismic gaps between the rich and the poor. Their first divergence came at 18, when both landed entry-level jobs at a local hardware store. Andre's first paycheck burned a hole in his pocket. He splurged on a shiny new iPhone, the kind that turned heads in their small neighborhood. "You only live once," he'd say, grinning as he scrolled through apps. Lucas, though, tucked his paycheck into a savings account, muttering to himself, "I haven't earned the right to spend yet." His friends, Andre included, laughed it off, calling him stingy, a killjoy. But Lucas wasn't denying himself pleasure. He was planting a seed, one that would take years to sprout but would change everything. That single choice, so small it seemed trivial, was the first crack in the foundation of their futures. By 19, Lucas was obsessed with a concept he'd stumbled across in a library book: compound interest. He'd sit at the local diner, nursing a coffee, scribbling numbers on napkins, how $1,000 invested at 8% could balloon to $10,000 in 20 years. "Time's the real money," he'd tell anyone who'd listen, his eyes bright with conviction. Andre, meanwhile, scoffed. "You'll die before you enjoy it," he'd tease, flashing a new pair of sneakers he'd bought on credit. Fast forward a decade, and Lucas's modest investments were spitting out dividends that rivaled Andre's entire paycheck. While Andre worked overtime to cover interest on his credit cards, Lucas's money worked for him, a silent engine built on patience and foresight. Their attitudes toward spending defined them further. Andre chased status, the kind that sparkled under fluorescent lights. He leased a sleek BMW, wore designer jackets that strained his budget, and booked weekend getaways he couldn't afford, splitting the cost across 12 credit card payments. Each purchase was a badge of honor, proof he was making it. Lucas, on the other hand, lived lean. He rented a modest apartment, wore thrift store flannels, and spent his extra cash on a small side hustle, a landscaping business he ran with a high school buddy. He wasn't anti-fun, he just saw every dollar as a choice between consumption and construction. While Andre built a facade, Lucas built a foundation. Money itself was another dividing line. To Andre, it was a fleeting thrill, something to spend as soon as it hit his account. Payday meant new gadgets, dinners out, a round of drinks for his buddies. "Money's meant to be enjoyed," he'd say, as if saving was a betrayal of life itself. Lucas saw money differently, not as a prize but as a tool. Every dollar was a soldier in an army he was building, one that could fight for his freedom. He'd lie awake at night, not dreaming of yachts, but of a future where he didn't have to clock in for someone else. By his mid-20s, Lucas's savings and small investments had given him options Andre couldn't imagine, tethered as he was to monthly payments. The people they surrounded themselves with shaped their trajectories too. Andre's crew was a chorus of complaints. Over beers at the local dive bar, they griped about bosses, bills, and bad breaks. Their conversations were a loop of victimhood, each story reinforcing the idea that life was rigged against them. Lucas, though, sought out different voices. He started showing up at local business meetups, awkward at first, in his scuffed sneakers, but eager to listen. He met entrepreneurs, accountants, even a retired investor who took a liking to him. These were people who talked about solutions, tax strategies, market trends, new ventures. Slowly, their mindset rubbed off on Lucas, rewiring how he saw the world. Failure hit both men, but their reactions couldn't have been more different. At 24, Andre tried his hand at a side gig selling fitness supplements. When it flopped, his garage still stacked with unsold protein powder, he spiraled. He blamed the market, his partners, even his customers. The loss wasn't just financial, it crushed his confidence, and he swore off risks for good. Lucas, too, faced failure. His first big investment, a stake in a friend's restaurant, went belly up when the chef quit and the place shuttered. But Lucas didn't sulk. "That was an expensive lesson," he said, with a wry smile, already analyzing what went wrong. He adjusted, researched, and tried again, this time with a small rental property that turned a profit. Failure, for Lucas, was a teacher. For Andre, it was a tombstone. Their weekends told another story. Andre treated Saturday and Sunday as an escape, binge-watching shows or sleeping off hangovers. Lucas, though, carved out time for growth. Every Saturday morning, he'd spend an hour reading books on finance, biographies of business titans, even dense economic reports. It wasn't much, just 10% of his weekend, but over years those hours compounded like his investments. By 30, Lucas could talk shop with seasoned investors, while Andre's knowledge of the world hadn't budged since high school. When extra cash came their way, their choices spoke volumes. A work bonus for Andre meant a bigger TV, a new watch, a weekend in Miami. Each windfall raised his lifestyle, chaining him to higher expenses. Lucas, though, funneled bonuses into his business or his brokerage account. When he did celebrate, it was quiet. A nice dinner, a bottle of wine, a moment to mark a milestone without derailing his goals. Andre's rewards were visible but fleeting. Lucas's were invisible but lasting. In quiet moments, Lucas had a habit of interrogating himself. He'd stand in front of his bathroom mirror, asking, "Does this move me closer to freedom?" Whether it was a job offer, a purchase, or a partnership, he weighed it against his long-term vision. Andre, though, avoided those questions. When money got tight, he'd blame the economy, his boss, his upbringing, anything but his own choices. His inner dialogue was a litany of excuses, each one a brick in the wall between him and progress. By his early 30s, Lucas had learned to buy time. He hired a part-time assistant to handle his landscaping business's paperwork, freeing him to focus on new deals. He invested in software to automate his rental property management, saving hours each week. Every dollar spent on efficiency was a dollar spent on peace. Andre, meanwhile, was still trading time for money, working overtime shifts to cover his car payments. Exhaustion was his constant companion, a weight Lucas had learned to shed. Listening was another quiet divide. Lucas had a knack for staying silent, soaking up wisdom from those who'd walked the path before him. At a coffee shop meetup, he'd let a grizzled investor talk for an hour, asking questions, taking notes. Andre, though, loved the sound of his own voice. He'd interrupt, argue, or dismiss advice with a wave of his hand. His opinions were armor, shielding him from doubt, but also from growth. Lucas's silence, his willingness to be a student, opened doors Andre never saw. The cost of appearances was a lesson Andre learned too late. He'd spent years curating an image, designer clothes, a leased luxury car, Instagram posts from trendy bars. Each choice was a bid to prove he'd made it, but the price was crippling debt. Lucas, meanwhile, lived below his means. He drove a used Honda, shopped at discount stores, and ignored the urge to impress. Looking rich is a tax the poor can't afford, he'd say, half joking. His frugality wasn't about deprivation, it was about freedom. Their legacies began to take shape in their children. Lucas, now a father, turned money into a game for his kids. He'd give them $10 to invest in a lemonade stand, teaching them profit and loss through giggles and sticky fingers. Andre, though, brushed off such lessons. "Let kids be kids," he'd say, handing his son a new video game to keep him quiet. Lucas was building a mindset in his children, planting seeds for their future. Andre, without realizing it, was passing down his struggles. The final chapter came at a high school reunion, where Lucas and Andre sat across from each other at a dimly lit restaurant. Andre, now 35, looked worn, his voice heavy with complaints about his job, his rent, the unfairness of it all. Lucas listened, nodding, his own life a stark contrast, his business thriving, his investments growing, his family secure. As Andre ranted, Lucas sipped his drink, a quiet realization settling in. The difference between them wasn't money, it wasn't opportunity or talent, it was mindset, the way they saw time, failure, and themselves. Lucas had built a life of intention, while Andre had drifted, chasing shadows. In that moment, under the hum of conversation and clinking glasses, the truth was clear. Wealth wasn't about what you had, but how you thought. Story 4: The Strangest Habits of Millionaires. Wealth, it seems, breeds eccentricity, or perhaps it's the other way around. The ultra-rich, those who've built fortunes that defy comprehension, often live by rules that seem bizarre to the rest of us. Their habits aren't just quirks, they're rituals, meticulously crafted to sharpen their minds, preserve their focus, or tether them to some deeper truth about the world. From billionaires who eat the same meal every day, to heiresses aligning their shoes with cosmic precision. These habits reveal a side of wealth that's as fascinating as it is strange. This is the story of the odd, obsessive, and sometimes inexplicable routines of millionaires, each one a window into the minds that shape their fortunes. In a glass-walled penthouse overlooking San Francisco, tech billionaire Marcus Vaughan starts every morning the same way, a plain bowl of oatmeal measured to the gram, eaten at exactly 6:42 a.m. It's not about health or frugality. Marcus could afford a private chef to whip up Michelin star dishes. For him, it's about efficiency. "Every decision you make drains you," he once told a curious journalist, stirring his oats with a titanium spoon. Choosing breakfast is a waste of brain power. By sticking to the same meal, he frees his mind for bigger battles, deals, innovations, the next billion. His friends joke that he's eaten the same oatmeal for a decade, but Marcus just smiles. To him, monotony is a weapon, a way to conserve mental energy for the chaos of wealth. Across the Atlantic, in a sprawling London townhouse, cosmetics heiress Isabella Moreau has a different obsession: her shoes. Over 400 pairs, Louboutins, Manolos, custom-made leather boots line her closet, each pair aligned precisely to face east. "It channels the energy of prosperity," she explained to a skeptical assistant, adjusting a stiletto with a ruler. Isabella believes the orientation aligns her with some unseen force of fortune, a ritual she's followed since her company went public. Staff whisper about her late-night checks, ensuring not a single heel is out of place. To her, it's not superstition, it's strategy, a way to impose order on a world that wealth can't control. On the outskirts of Silicon Valley, venture capitalist Rajiv Patel begins his day with a shiver. At 5:30 a.m., he plunges his face into a bucket of ice water, holding his breath for 30 seconds. "It's like hitting reset on your brain," he says, toweling off as his teeth chatter. He calls it his cold shock ritual, a practice he swears keeps him sharp in a world that rewards comfort. Rajiv claims the icy jolt forces his mind out of autopilot, preparing him for the high-stakes decisions that define his portfolio. His colleagues roll their eyes, but they can't argue with his track record. His firm's investments have returned billions. For Rajiv, discomfort is a teacher, and the ice is his classroom. In Tokyo, billionaire entrepreneur Hiroshi Tanaka keeps a safe in his minimalist office, not for cash or jewels, but for ideas. Inside are thousands of slips of paper, each scrawled with a wild, half-formed thought. A flying car, a seaweed-based currency, a social network for pets. Every Sunday, he unlocks the safe, picks one at random, and spends the day exploring it, no matter how absurd. "Greatness comes from the ridiculous," he told a business partner, sketching a blueprint for a solar-powered umbrella. Most ideas fail, but a few, like a delivery drone he dreamt up a decade ago, have made him millions. The safe, he says, is his playground, a place where wealth meets whimsy. Across the globe, real estate mogul Vanessa Carter carries a tattered notebook, its pages filled with a list she's kept for 15 years. Things she'll never buy. Private islands, gold-plated watches, a third yacht, all forbidden, no matter how much her fortune grows. "Saying no keeps me grounded," she said once, flipping through the list in her modest Brooklyn office. The habit started after she saw a friend lose millions to reckless spending. For Vanessa, the list is a shield, a reminder that wealth doesn't own her. She updates it yearly, adding new temptations, each entry a quiet rebellion against the excess that surrounds her. High above Manhattan, media tycoon Leonard Brooks sits every Friday at 4 p.m. in a worn leather armchair facing a floor-to-ceiling window. For exactly 33 minutes, he does nothing. No phone, no thoughts, just the sky. He calls it his meeting with the universe, a ritual he's followed since his first big deal. "It's where I find clarity," he told a confidant, watching clouds drift over Central Park. Those who know him say those silent moments fuel his uncanny ability to predict market shifts. To Leonard, the chair isn't just furniture, it's a portal to perspective, a way to escape the noise of his empire. In Paris, billionaire fashion designer Claude Moreau dresses like a living canvas. His outfits, vibrant purples one day, muted greys the next, are dictated by an app he coded himself, which analyzes his mood based on sleep patterns and calendar stress. Once he showed up to a gala in a neon green suit that baffled attendees, but Claude just laughed. "It's not about fashion, it's about feeling," he said, adjusting a tie that clashed gloriously with his vest. The app, he claims, keeps him honest, forcing him to confront his emotions rather than hide behind a tailored facade. To Claude, wealth is freedom, and his clothes are its expression. In Seattle, tech genius Elena Wu sleeps in fragments, 3 naps of 3 hours each, scattered across the day, never a full night's rest. "Dreams are sharper in pieces," she told a podcast host, her eyes bright despite her odd schedule. Elena believes breaking her sleep into chunks sparks creativity, letting her solve problems others can't. Her company's breakthroughs, AI algorithms, quantum computing patents, seem to prove her right. Colleagues marvel at her energy, but Elena just shrugs. "Sleep's just fuel," she says. "I'd rather sip it than chug it." In a sleek Los Angeles boardroom, media mogul David Kessler keeps a massive oak table bare, except for one object, a broken pocket watch, its hands frozen at 3:17. "Time doesn't own me," he says when asked, his voice calm but firm. The watch, a gift from his father, stopped the day David made his first million. He keeps it there as a reminder that wealth buys freedom, not control. Employees whisper that he glances at it during tense negotiations, as if drawing strength from its stillness. To David, it's a talisman, proof that he's outrun the clock. In São Paulo, billionaire financier Mateus Silva holds a weekly ritual that feels like time travel. Every Monday, he locks himself in his study for 40 minutes, playing a video he recorded a decade ago, a younger Mateus asking questions about life, wealth, and purpose. He answers them aloud, as if advising his past self. "It keeps me honest," he told a friend, pausing the video to jot down a thought. The habit forces him to confront his choices, measuring today's success against yesterday's dreams. For Mateus, wealth isn't just money, it's a conversation with who he was and who he'll become. In Dubai, heiress Noor Al-Mansouri wakes every day at exactly 3:33 a.m. Her alarm isn't negotiable, and neither is her routine. In the pre-dawn quiet, she fills black leather notebooks with ideas, business ventures, charity initiatives, even poetry. "The world's asleep, but my mind's alive," she says, stacking her notebooks in a climate-controlled safe. Her staff counts over 100 journals, each a snapshot of her genius. Noor believes those early hours are sacred, a time when clarity cuts through the noise. Her empire, built on real estate and tech, owes much to those stolen moments. In Miami, art collector Julian Rossi keeps a sealed refrigerator in his living room, its contents a mystery to guests. When pressed, he opens it to reveal nothing, just cold air. "It's a reminder," he says with a grin, "that I can afford to refrigerate emptiness." The fridge, a custom-built monstrosity, costs more than most people's cars, but Julian sees it as a statement, Wealth, to him, is the ability to embrace the absurd, to control even the void. Friends call it madness. Julian calls it art. In the hills of Los Angeles, actor-turned-producer Malik Thompson built a shrine to his past, a replica of the cramped studio apartment where he earned his first million. Down to the chipped paint, the flickering bulb, the threadbare blanket. It's all there, hidden behind his mansion's marble walls. "It's where I go when I forget who I am," he told a co-star, sitting on the lumpy mattress. Malik visits monthly, not out of nostalgia, but to reconnect with the hunger that drove him. The room, he says, keeps his wealth from softening him. In New York, hedge fund titan Rachel Cohen has a secret only visible under blacklight, a tattoo on her wrist, a number etched in ultraviolet ink. She won't say what it means, only that it's her code to freedom. Rachel claims glancing at it during high-stakes deals stops her from making reckless moves. "It's my anchor," she told a mentee, tilting her wrist under a UV lamp to reveal the glowing digits. The tattoo, invisible to the world, is her private rebellion against the chaos of wealth. Once a month, London-based financier Oliver Grant disappears. No phone, no email, no meetings, just silence. He calls it his day of nothing, a 24-hour void where he lets his mind wander. "The best ideas come when you're empty," he told a colleague, describing a breakthrough that saved his firm millions. Oliver's staff dreads the day. He's unreachable, even for emergencies, but they can't deny its results. His competitors scramble. Oliver, in his quiet, finds answers. These habits, strange, obsessive, sometimes absurd, are more than quirks. They're the scaffolding of minds that bend wealth to their will. From oatmeal to empty fridges, from ice buckets to invisible tattoos, millionaires craft routines that anchor them, challenge them, or set them free. Their wealth isn't just in their bank accounts, it's in the odd, deliberate ways they shape their days, proving that money, in the end, is just a tool for living differently. Story 5, the woman who inherited a fortune and lost it all in 2 years. Ashley Miller was 32, wiping down tables at a bustling San Diego diner when her phone buzzed with a call that changed everything. It was a crisp October morning in 2023, the California sun filtering through the diner's smudged windows. The voice on the line belonged to a lawyer, his tone formal but tinged with urgency. Her paternal grandmother, Eleanor, a woman Ashley hadn't spoken to in years, had passed away. The will named Ashley as the sole heir to a $7 million fortune, cash, stocks, and a small real estate portfolio. Ashley stood frozen, a rag dangling from her hand as the diner's noise faded to a hum. She'd grown up scraping by, splitting rent with roommates, her life a treadmill of tips and late-night shifts. Now she was a millionaire. 2 years later, she was broke, her fortune vanished, in a whirlwind of reckless choices, a stark reminder that money, without wisdom, is just a fleeting spark. For the first few days, Ashley kept the news to herself. She didn't tell her co-workers, her friends, or even her sister. The weight of the inheritance felt surreal, like a secret too big to share. She quit her job without fanfare, deleted her LinkedIn profile, and packed her bags for Los Angeles, craving a fresh start. She rented a sleek penthouse in West Hollywood, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city's glittering skyline. "I need time to think," she told herself, sipping coffee on a balcony that cost more per month than her old apartment's yearly rent. The silence was intoxicating, a cocoon where she could imagine a new Ashley, glamorous, untouchable, free. Her first indulgence came on a whim. At a dealership in Beverly Hills, she spotted a gleaming black Range Rover, its leather interior smelling of wealth. Ashley had never driven anything fancier than a beat-up Toyota Corolla, and the SUV's dashboard, with its glowing screens and polished chrome, felt like a spaceship. "You deserve this," the salesman purred, and Ashley agreed, signing over $120,000 without blinking. She fumbled with the controls, unsure how to work the GPS, but the thrill of sliding into the driver's seat drowned out her doubts. It was her first taste of excess, a purchase she justified as a one-time celebration. But the line between celebration and compulsion blurred fast. The house came next. Ashley fell for a modernist mansion in the Hollywood Hills, a $2.3 million marvel of glass and concrete perched above the city. It had an infinity pool that seemed to spill into the horizon, a chef's kitchen she barely used, and a minimalist entryway where she installed a $95,000 abstract sculpture, a jagged bronze piece she bought because an art dealer called it transformative. She told herself the house was an investment, a place to host friends and build a new life. But Ashley lived alone, and the vast rooms echoed with emptiness. The pool shimmered under the California sun, but no one swam in it. The house wasn't a home, it was a stage, and Ashley was playing a role she didn't understand. The friends arrived like moths to a flame, influencers with perfect teeth, aspiring musicians with velvet voices, and self-proclaimed entrepreneurs with glossy business cards. They all found their way to Ashley's Friday night parties. Her mansion became a revolving door of laughter, clinking glasses and pulsing music. They called her Ash, toasted her generosity, and posted selfies from her pool, tagging her as living the dream. She basked in their praise, feeling like she'd finally cracked the code to belonging. They pitched game-changing ventures, crypto apps, fashion lines, wellness retreats, and Ashley, eager to be part of their world, listened. She didn't see their calculated smiles or the way they eyed her bank account. To her, they were her tribe. To them, she was a mark. One of those new friends, a slick Instagram entrepreneur named Kyle, pitched a startup that promised to revolutionize augmented reality. His presentation was a whirlwind of buzzwords: metaverse, blockchain, immersive tech. And Ashley, dazzled by his confidence, wired $500,000 to his company without consulting a lawyer or even reading the fine print. "This is how wealth grows," Kyle assured her, flashing a grin over martinis. 2 months later, the startup's website was offline, Kyle's DMs went unanswered, and a quick search revealed he'd vanished, leaving a trail of duped investors. Ashley's money was gone, swallowed by a scam she'd been too starstruck to question. Her spending became a reflex. Rodeo Drive boutiques knew her by name. She bought Balenciaga sneakers, Dior dresses, Louis Vuitton bags, her closet a kaleidoscope of logos. She'd walk out of stores with bags dangling from both arms, each purchase a rush that faded faster than the last. Her credit card bills piled up, $20,000 one month, $35,000 the next. She barely glanced at them, swiping without thought, assuming the money would stretch forever. The closet, overflowing with unworn clothes, became a monument to her excess, and the bills, ignored in a drawer, grew into a quiet crisis. Ashley's transformation wasn't just financial, it was physical. She booked 3 cosmetic procedures in 6 months, lip fillers, a nose job, and cheek enhancements. "I need to look the part," she told her reflection, chasing an image of perfection she saw on Instagram. Each surgery cost tens of thousands, and the results, subtle at best, botched at worst, left her feeling more insecure than before. The mirror reflected a stranger, and her bank account reflected the price. $80,000 gone, with nothing to show but fleeting compliments from people who didn't care. Then came the trip. Ashley, craving adventure, invited 4 new friends, acquaintances she'd met at a rooftop bar, for a European getaway. They flew to Paris, then Rome, then Santorini, staying in 5-star hotels with marble lobbies and ocean views. Ashley covered everything, $600 bottles of Bordeaux, a private yacht for a day in the Mediterranean, even a chartered jet to skip commercial flights. The bill topped $200,000 and no one offered to chip in. "You're living the dream, Ash," they cheered, raising glasses she'd paid for. Back in LA, the memory of their laughter felt hollow, like an echo in her empty mansion. The warning came from her accountant, a bespectacled man named Paul, who'd been hired by the estate's lawyer. Over coffee in her kitchen, he laid out the numbers. Her cash reserves were dwindling. She'd ignored property taxes, capital gains taxes, and insurance premiums on her new assets. "You're burning through this faster than you think," he said, sliding a spreadsheet across the counter. Ashley bristled. "That's not your concern," she snapped, waving him off. Paul sighed. "It will be when your account hits zero." She didn't listen. The idea of limits felt like an insult to her new life. Her family surfaced too. Her younger sister, Lauren, a single mum struggling in Fresno, asked for $5,000 to cover rent and medical bills for her son. Ashley hesitated, then refused. "I'm not a bank," she said, her voice sharp. But days later, she lent $100,000 to a new boyfriend, a charming drifter named Jake, who wanted to open a bar in Las Vegas. "It's a sure thing," he promised, kissing her hand. Jake disappeared a month later, the bar never materialized, and Ashley's calls went to voicemail. Her generosity, it seemed, was reserved for those who flattered her, not those who needed her. The parties stopped as quickly as they'd started. The mansion grew quiet, its halls no longer ringing with music or laughter. The infinity pool turned murky, its filter neglected after Ashley fired her maintenance crew to cut costs. The sculpture in the entryway, once a point of pride, now loomed like a bad decision. Her friends drifted away, their texts unanswered, their Instagram stories no longer featuring her. The silence was deafening, a reminder that her popularity had been bought, not earned. Desperation set in. Ashley listed furniture on Craigslist, a $10,000 sofa for $500, a $7,000 dining table for $200. She sold her designer watches, her Range Rover repossessed after missed payments. The mansion went into foreclosure, the bank seizing it to cover her debts. By early 2025, Ashley was back in a cramped studio apartment in Long Beach, its walls thin enough to hear her neighbors' arguments. Her credit was ruined, her name flagged by banks, her dreams of grandeur reduced to a single bed and a flickering TV. The tabloids caught wind of her fall. "Waitress turned millionaire blows fortune in record time," blared one headline, complete with paparazzi shots of Ashley leaving a grocery store, her face drawn. Blogs dissected her spending, mocking her parties and her failed startup bet. She cried reading the stories, but didn't sue. She knew they were true. The world saw her as a cautionary tale, a fleeting spectacle of failure. The shame cut deeper than the poverty she'd returned to. One evening, unpacking the last of her boxes, Ashley found an envelope tucked inside an old photo album. It was from her grandmother, Eleanor, written in elegant cursive. "Money without wisdom is just noise in your pocket," it read. "Promise me, and yourself, that you'll do better." Ashley's eyes stung. She'd never opened the letter, too swept up in the rush of her windfall. Now, in a dim apartment that smelled of damp carpet, she saw the truth. Her fortune hadn't been stolen. It had been squandered. The money was gone, but the lesson lingered, sharp and heavy, a chance to rebuild not just her wealth, but herself. If you've stuck with us through this whole story and you're still wide awake, hats off to you for powering through. Before you head off, we'd love for you to share your thoughts. Leave a comment below. Maybe tell us where you're tuning in from, what hit home about the tale, or even an idea for our next video. Your words keep this adventure going and help us connect with more folks, so make them count. We read and respond to every single one. We've wrapped up another chapter, but if you're still craving more stories that unravel the mysteries of wealth, tap the video popping up on your screen right now. Catch you there. Until next time.